Hi, a lot of students ask what is the scope of doing a job in India after you have done your studies in Germany, or for that matter any other country you come from. It is actually not a very simple answer because it really depends on a lot of different things. First of all, it really depends if you already know from the starting that you want to do your studies in Germany and then afterwards come to India, because in that case you can start orienting yourself from the very first semester, and that is very important. Like if you're trying to study in Germany and then afterwards doing a job here, then of course you will be a lot more focused with networking within the companies which are in Germany, and they do not necessarily have to have any kind of contact with India. Now, if you have companies in Germany which are not multinational but they have still some kind of collaboration going on in India, that is fine, but that is still not ideal, because in case if you want to study in Germany and then afterwards work in India, what you should always be looking for is most of the times German companies which are multinational, which are also in India. That means Siemens, that means Bosch, that means BMW, that means Mercedes, that means Volkswagen, and for example this energy company called DNVGL, that is also like in India, which is also in Germany. So these kind of like major companies you should always be looking at, because the best thing is that once you have done your masters here, I think it is always very important that you work in the target country for a while. That means if you're doing your masters in US, you work for 2-3 years there after your masters, and then you shift to any other country. The same is true for Canada, for Germany, or for India, because as soon as you're done with your masters and then you get this idea that hey, I'm not I'm not going to work here anymore, and then you think like, all right, let me just shift the country. If you're already getting the offer, that's great, but I wouldn't suggest that you just leave your masters, then you like stop looking for a job in the target country and only look for a job in the other countries, because that is a recipe for disaster. The problem comes that many companies think that maybe you were not employable in your own country where you did the masters, and this is the reason you're trying to go to some other country, which is not a great first impression. So that's something that we absolutely don't want to give. So if you have like good grades and everything, and you have a lot of work experience, and you have good chances at the job, because the thing is like applying doesn't cost anything, so you can always apply, you can always see, but still like do not stop looking for a job in the country where you're doing your masters for. Work there for 2-3 years, gain the experience, and then the assimilation into your own home country is going to be very easy. And I think this is also that I would suggest the most, because you have a lot of different options. So like you have 3 main options that we can discuss right now. The first one is government jobs. So for most of the Indians, when you start your masters, you're going to be like 21 or something, and when you're finishing it, maybe you're 24, and then afterwards you go back. This is not true for the people who are already having some kind of work experience and then coming for masters. So depending on if you're general or reserved, you can still like write the government exam and like still have quite a few attempts. I think for general category, of course, the attempts are less and the age limit is also a lot stricter. For reserved category, that is not the case. So you can also see that option. So like government jobs is still a valid option after your masters, although I would like really argue that maybe you wouldn't be able to fit so easily there. Like if you integrate in Germany, then the reverse culture shock that you feel, it is very, very real. Like you would just be questioning to yourself, like, how could people behave like this? How could people work like this? How could people come late? How could they do this? How could they do that? And then it kind of becomes annoying on an everyday basis. And this is also what I've seen. So I think I just know one student that I know who actually studied masters in Germany and then afterwards went back to India. All of the others that I know so far, like they all decided to like stay in Germany and like settle down here. And it is also not bad, because like first of all, like air is way better, like you don't have to at least worry about your health. Then the salary is way better. So like it is again like not comparable to US, but it is still very nice. You have a very nice standard of living and you don't have this constant stress, because this argument that hey, you should go to US because, well, you earn a lot more there, like I said in my previous video, like you don't get that money for free. Like you have to work maybe 3 or 4 times the value of the money that you will be actually getting from the company. So don't think that you will be earning like hundreds of thousands of dollars, so like it is going to be very chilled out. No. And this is also the reason so many people like quit their jobs, then afterwards start something on their own, or just like start finding a job somewhere else. Many of my clients are from America, so they also like ask me all the time like, hey, look, like we are here, we are working since the last like 11 years, and every single time when we are trying to get the lottery for the green card, it's just not working out, and what other options do we have? So like I always suggest them, hey, like look, Germany is a great option because like you can get your permanent residency. If you study, you can get your permanent residency within 2 years. So like you do your masters, afterwards you work for 2 years, you pay the social contributions for 24 months, so 2 years, that's the criteria, and you have the German proficiency for B1. Then you get your permanent residency in just 2 years after your degree is done. And like that's how simple it is for the students. And for most of the other professionals, like it could go anywhere from like 33 months till 5 years. So like around like 3 to 5 years it will take for the permanent residency, but still you have it. There is no chance system. Like you fulfill the requirements, you get that thing. So this is how simple it is. And this is also the reason I say like Germany is still a very good option if you want to have a nice lifestyle, if you want to just have a safe life, because seeing the news back in my own home country, I think like this is I think a luxury that many people don't get back there. So that's very unfortunate. Government jobs is one option. Masters is recognized for the government jobs because the structure is the same. You have 2 years of masters along with a master thesis. If you do your masters for like 3 semesters, then like it might not be recognized, and the chances are like rather high that it wouldn't be recognized back in India. But if you're doing your normal masters for 4 semesters, then it is not an issue at all, and you can even do your PhD in India afterwards. So like that is also an alternative that you always have on the side. Then the second option comes private jobs in India. Now you also do not have any kind of like limitation there. Like you have a lot of different kind of like, you know, job places, but many of them are ill paid. They are ill paid, you have to do a lot of work, and then afterwards you're spending anyways like so much time in the traffic. I think for us like Bangalore was the worst when we were doing our India meetups, and I think it took us like 2 hours to maybe go 20 kilometers or something in that city. So like these kind of things, when you compare them and the time that you're going to save when you're like just settling down in Germany, of course it's nice. But if for any kind of reason you want to go back to India, then of course you have the option of private jobs too. But I would highly recommend that you already try to come in contact with those companies when you're in Germany, when you're studying or maybe when you're working, because then at least you have some kind of leverage. Like you have the leverage that, hey, look, I'm in Germany, I would be coming to India. Would you be interested in hiring me, or like would you be interested in working with me or something like that? But if you're already in India, you're actually on a lower hierarchy if you compare it like that, because they don't necessarily need you then, because you're already there. You are the one who wants something, not them. But if you're in Germany, you're working or something, and like then you come in contact, then of course like these kind of like relationship dynamics really matter, and you have to be very careful about the times when you approach the company. How do you approach them? What do you write to them? Because all these tiny details matter a lot, and sometimes students underestimate. They're like, yeah, we will just go to the job portals and we are going to send our applications to like 500 companies and stuff, and then they complain to me afterwards in the email that, hey, I sent applications to 500, 600 companies, but I'm not getting a response. And I always tell them like, you know, all of the other, like 95% of the other candidates are doing the exact same thing. So I'm not surprised that nobody's responding to you, right? So this is the reason why I tell students to get creative, to find jobs in better ways. And I've like discussed in my course and like in some other YouTube videos too, like how do you find jobs in a better way and so on. So that is super important to understand, that when you're here already, then you come in contact with the private companies in India. And the third option, and the best one I would say, if you're like doing your masters in Germany and then afterwards you want to work in India, live in India, then German companies in India are the best option because the pay is going to be better. The experience you have in Germany, the work you did in Germany is going to be regarded way more highly than in other private companies. And then you always also have this option that maybe after a while you get assimilated back to Germany, like if you want that. So then you have like both kind of doors open, which is like rather nice. Now another thing that you can do, and I think like this is the bonus part, is that maybe you start working in a German company and then afterwards a lot of them have assignments to different kind of countries, and if one of that country is India, and maybe like after working here for 2-3 years you volunteer, not volunteer, like of course there's going to be a proper vetting process, but if they select you for India, like you show your interest that yes you want to go there, you have the intercultural competence, because intercultural competence is another very important trait that most of the companies are looking for, because 33% of any kind of abroad assignments fail because the person or the delegate that they're sending there isn't able to cope up with the cultural differences. Now, like how people speak, how people behave, how people like, you know, just work with each other and so on. So you as an Indian, if you're going to India on any kind of assignment from a German company, then the pay is still going to be equivalent to the German standards and even more, because you are going there on behalf of the company and they're going to take care of like whatever other needs you have for the family, for the schooling and everything. So like this is a rather nicer option if you compare all of these different kind of scenarios in front of you. So that is the story. I mean, these are the options you have, but I highly suggest that from the very starting. I mean, it is definitely not possible that, you know, from the day one that you know exactly what you want to do, because like this is a learning process, but still the sooner you can decide, the sooner you can figure out, the better you can prepare for it. Because I always tell that, hey, the better you can prepare for something, the easier your transition is going to be in that phase of your life. And many students, like, you know, they come to Germany thinking that they will go back to India and they will like work there and then decide to settle down in Germany, because they still go to India quite a few times during their studies. They see the differences every single time, and then afterwards towards the end they're like, I'm staying here, I'm going to chill out. So this is the story. These are like personal preferences. I've just given you some kind of like options, and these are like good valid options that you can still do when you're in India after you have studied in Germany now. So just take a look at them and decide for yourself what you want to do. And another important thing I would say is like, don't stress too much right now, because even if you don't know right now what you want to do, you will learn it. You will learn it in the first semester, maybe in the first few months, and then you will be fine. You will know what to do. Alright then guys, thanks a lot for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. If you want to book some appointments, the booking schedule is open again and you will find the link in the description. Bye bye.